Denied, delayed, underrated? That's the story for too many veterans, including me. Hey, veterans and the families listening in, welcome. My name is Robert Pinero. I'm a Marine combat veteran and the founder of Veterans Educating Veterans. I've served 2 tours in Iraq, and like many veterans, I know how hard it is to get service connected and navigate the VA system. After service, I was frustrated, in pain, and told no more times than I can count, even by VA attorneys. So instead of giving up, I decided to learn the VA process myself. That's what Veterans Educating Veterans is built on. We educate and guide veterans through the VA compensation process, step by step, helping you understand how the system works so you can move forward with confidence, not confusion. I do this work alongside my wife, Jillian, and 4 our 2 daughters because our families live with the impact of service long after the uniform comes off. You deserve the benefits you've earned, not just for yourself, but for the family that stands beside you. Welcome to the War Room.
The War Room by Veterans Educating Veterans.
Just a quick disclaimer, this is for education only and not for legal or medical advice. Every claim is different, so don't take this as an individual guidance. All right, welcome back to the War Room. I'm Robert Pinero, founder of Veterans Educating Veterans. I got coaches with me, James, Cody, and Jesse. How you guys doing today?
Good.
Tired,
Good.
but good.
Yeah, hanging in there, man.
How was your trip this time?
Long. Not bad, not bad. I don't mind. I don't mind coming down here. The weather's always good this time of year compared to upstate New York for sure. So it's good to get away.
Good this time of year. It's hot down here.
Yeah, humid. The humidity's a little. It's dry.
Hot for me. I'm a Michigan boy. This is hot.
New York, you already know, New York City, 0 degrees.
All right, so we're going to get right into this topic. I know that while I was coaching, I always got this question, and it was, will I lose my job
Oh, yeah. Yep.
if I'm entitled to this rating? So if you guys can let me know about your experience. I know that my guys, I would try to explain these things to them, that the permanent and total status does not allow you to work.
Mm-hmm.
It actually allows you to work. It's TDIU, which is another subject that doesn't allow you to work, or it does up to a certain point, which I think it's like $200 or something.
Yeah, I think it's the poverty threshold, whatever the case is for TDIU. For permanent and total, I myself am 100% permanent total. There are 0 restrictions on income for me. I have kept in law enforcement for about 2 years after getting 100% PNT. It had 0 effect on my job or my ability to do it, to be honest. So I understand that's a concern for a lot of vets. It was a concern for me as well until I was explained the differences. So yeah, PNT, you can work. You're not losing your job. And that's just kind of how I
Definitely law enforcement, man.
Mm-hmm.
I've been seeing that a lot of police officers and
There seems to be a line.
yeah, a lot of police officers, anybody that works like detention centers, some work in federal detention centers like prisons and stuff. And they all ask about the same thing. Like he's like, can I still work? Like I had a guy in the airport. I saw his bag. He was prior military. So I asked him questions, and he was at 90%. And he came out. He's like, yeah, but if I get 100%, can I still work? And I told him, of course you can still work. You know, it just depends on. I guess it just depends on federal jobs. If you try to go for a certain federal job, that doesn't allow like 100% mental, but I feel like they're good to go.
I understand what their concern is. There's always new bills being introduced where the government says if you are 100% rating or make X, Y, and Z allotment for income, that you can't do both. There's always new bills that they introduce. None of them have been written into law. So especially with the digital age we're in, information spread like wildfire. The VA always puts things out. Veterans are always looking on Reddit, on Facebook groups. One veteran gets word of it. It's like the Lance Corporal Underground in the Marine Corps. It spreads like wildfire. One person gets a whiff of it, and they're like, "Oh, I saw that. Hey, they're introduced that if you're 100% or you make over $100,000, you can't get your benefits anymore." At this current time, there's no such law in place. They are always constantly introducing new things and different bills, but that none of them have passed. So at this point in time, no. You can absolutely carry 100% permanent total rating and still carry a full-time job. What Jesse was saying, I know air traffic controllers are one. They're submariners. They go through rigorous scrutiny. It's a little harder. I know like the federal jobs, so they are asked more in-depth questions. Absolutely. So that can always be a problem depending on who your superior is and how that office that you're working in and how they run it. So we can never always say 100%, hey, you're safe, in that, but you absolutely could contact your supervisor and ask them what's the rules and regulations and what's going on here. But we definitely don't want to also not seek the help as a veteran because of that either. So definitely do not discourage or let that play a big part because you don't want things to bottle up and explode and overflow down the line, and then you may lose your job completely because of it. So absolutely don't hide it.
So I know for government jobs, there are a lot of restrictions. I know that also the FAA, the VA is working with the FAA. So anybody who's a pilot is now talking. I'm sorry, they're talking to each other. So they are releasing information about the pilots. And of course, that's a safety issue. And that's the reason that they are releasing that information. For the private sector, though, I think we should talk a little bit about that. The private sector, there is a privacy portion to your records, right? Besides government, right? Because we talk about cops, firemen, everybody who's government, but the privacy sector, they don't have access to these unless you give them access, right? So you have to fill out a form in order to release these documents. And at the end of the day, I don't think they're entitled to them even by law, unless I think there's a portion of that safety factor in there. Because I had one client, he definitely was a pilot, and he was going for his commercial airline pilot. And even though he had symptoms of a mental disorder, and I'm not a psychologist once again, he was talking about those certain items that kind of told me he would definitely get diagnosed just from experience. And he was probably entitled to some compensation for that. So what do you guys think about the private sector, of course, going away from what the government, what the government regulations are for people who work for the government?
As well, like you said, as far as the private ones and them having access to certain things without your permission, seems like that's, there's certain legal parameters.
HIPAA.
Excuse me, around that, including HIPAA. So one thing I would just want to know, I guess, from Congress or whoever's trying to continuously pass something like this is, why wouldn't you want veterans working? Like, that opens up them to trying to have a normal style of life again. Whereas if you pass this and you say, no, you're not allowed to work if you're getting this, then that, to me, that's you're making them recluse. You're making them stay at home. You're making them not go out and experience things that they used to experience and try to live a normal life again, which is very hard for some to do to begin with. So I guess I would just want to know why they're trying to do that. So,
That's a good point, Cody, for sure. You know, what you've mentioned, a lot of these veterans, once they leave the military, they lose their sense of purpose. They come back, it may not just be war, just be, injuries they sustained on active duty. And now they're at 100%. And if they're not working and fulfilling some kind of fulfillment for that, it's, what are you doing? They're just going to rot. They need a sense of responsibility and a sense of urgency and a sense of
purpose.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Absolutely. A sense of purpose in their life that they once had, in the military. And if you've never been in the military, if you're watching this and you haven't been, it's hard to articulate it if you haven't personally experienced it. So these veterans, to kind of clip their wings and not let them go out just because they have been injured from their time in service, it's doing them a disservice for sure.
Yeah, and a lot of these veterans are, they're going to work and they're taking things off their mind, maybe mentally or, painfully. Them going to work sometimes takes that away and makes them not think about that. You're actually going to drive a veteran in depression, if he doesn't go to work or anything like that. But I just want to refocus, James, how come you have some medical background? What are the regulations with HIPAA and grabbing people's medical files?
Right. So HIPAA is the regulation set for medical records and all privacy completely. So, I mean, it's nothing to take lightly. I worked in a hospital. You couldn't even, people get fired daily because they'll post something on Facebook or Instagram and someone knew who they're talking about and called the hospital about it. You can't even talk about, I saw my friend in the hospital, especially as an employee, because you can get terminated completely because of privacy, because people don't need to know your personal medical history unless you want to release that to them. It's not for everyone to know because people don't want to know because a lot of stuff for them is embarrassing or can be embarrassing or they take it as embarrassment.
It's nobody else's business.
Exactly. There's that too. You don't need to know that your neighbor Sue is going through cancer treatment. You don't need to know that your neighbor who's a veteran has Agent Orange and he's got a colostomy bag because he had colon cancer. Like, that's not something that he wants to disclose to you. That's a very personal and private business. So HIPAA laws protect that. So unless you sign a release form, you can't obtain them.
So now I'm a little bit new, or I guess not new, but not privy to exactly like you just described HIPAA kind of. Who is bound to it? Is the VA bound to HIPAA? Is HIPAA restricting them from giving the access, or is HIPAA restricting the jobs from requesting that access?
I don't know, Cody. Oh. On that specific.
So I'll give you an example. So in law enforcement, it was the hospital that was bound to HIPAA to give information out. So if somebody were to seek that information and they released it, it was the hospital that was supposed to retain that information. And it didn't stop anybody from asking for those records, but I believe it stopped the hospital from releasing the records. So anybody can ask for them.
Right. So you have to sign a release form as a patient. So if the veteran is the patient, the veteran has to sign the release form over to whoever they're requesting the medical records from.
Okay.
So a lot of times veterans will get in the mail what's called a VA 4142 form, which is a release of information. So the veteran fills it out and gives permission for the VA to request it from their chiropractor that they went and saw for their back condition, or their private therapist or psychologist that they're seeking treatment from that is not through the VA. So the veteran or the patient in this case has to sign the release form to allow whoever to obtain those records.
That makes sense.
So even the U.S. government
Right.
has a restriction because they can't just go to chiropractor Garcia and say, hey, I know you've been treating this guy, release these to me. They also need your signature.
So you're the ultimate gatekeeper of your own information.
Unless there's
Right.
subpoena for law for a court case, then obviously subpoenas
That
they
would
can
supersede.
supersede.
That makes sense.
because they have to release that per the order of the judge. So
I know, Rob, you brought up a little bit ago, and I kind of wanted to touch on that a little bit. When you're allowing these veterans, much myself included in this, to be able to go to work, you had said, that takes their mind off of it a little bit. Like that lets them release a little bit from it. That's not to say that they're not still dealing with those situations. So just because they're going to work doesn't mean that they're not still dealing with the PTSD or everything like that. So this is not a cure. This is just you would help, mitigate those, but they would still be dealing with those on a daily basis, potentially on a daily basis. So it doesn't get rid of the symptoms.
No,
And-
absolutely not. And to be honest with you, it sounds kind of scary, when I think about it, because, if it is a police officer, imagine somebody on the force with you has PTSD issues where, they're thinking of suicide or something and they have a gun. Well, how do you know he's not going to commit suicide right next to you, right? And that bullet then goes to you. So I think if you shouldn't have your job, you definitely then, because of those symptoms, you shouldn't be doing your job then. You should say tap and quit and, go do something else. And I know, once again, we were talking about purpose. Then look for another purpose, because if you have those type of symptoms, safety is probably the ultimate reason that you probably can't do your job, which is usually what they look for when they're saying that you can't do your job. But going back to that, this is why people shouldn't be asking the question, will I lose my job? It's more, if I have these symptoms, then you should definitely, number one, get rated for it. Number two, have a plan in place to, if you do lose your job, then you're going to do something else. But from what I know is that the private sector is safe. I know the government does leak into, except private sector, except like airlines and things like that, because of course the FAA is grabbing those documents. The other part is of course, safety being involved, which I just said before. But besides that, I think that people should go for what they're entitled to. They should also get help if they really do need it, and you're going to lose your job for it. But will you lose your job? I can tell you that from a back issue, you're not going to lose your job. A shoulder issue, maybe. I think if you're a police officer and you can't pick up, if you're right-handed and you can't pick up that right hand anymore,
That would be a problem.
and that would
That
be
would
a
be a
problem.
problem.
That'll be a safety issue once again.
Absolutely.
So those are the type of issues that we would say, yeah, you'll lose your job because, you're having a flare-up one day and you need to pick up your gun and you can't. That's your life. If you want to risk that, then that's on you. But for the most part, I think 85% of the people we talk to, their job is not on the line.
I would agree.
And that's our biggest question, is what I'm trying to get to. James, you've had a lot of clients that, ask you this question. Are these guys, should I be scared? Are these guys like police officers or pilots?
I mean, a lot of the ones that are concerned already have an idea of what they're going in for. I.e., I have a client who is air traffic controller who was experiencing, or based on the symptoms that he's saying, could qualify for a mental rating. And and he went and talked with his union rep and everything. And based on everything, what they had on file was as long as you're not being, as long as your symptoms are not being suppressed due to medication, he's more than capable of doing his job. Is what his union rep came back, which is his boss, and said, so he's okay to go and file for it. So he said, okay, let's move forward then. So there's obviously special circumstances like that. Majority of the people have an idea if they, what they can and can't do, and with the limitations. If they're unable to perform their job due to back flare-ups, then they need to either find it, like Rob mentioned, find other employment. You never can guarantee that you can't due to that situation, but I'd say closer to more than 90% of people are not, or even 95 are not in fear of losing their job due to the disabilities they claim.
And if they were, let the vet make that decision themselves, right? You don't need to pass a law to do this, because then you're going to blanket a lot of people that don't need to lose a job are going to lose a job.
Well,
so
I like to use the example. I believe it was Lowe's. It may be Home Depot. Either way, one of those stores, there was a veteran who needed a service treatment dog due to his service-connected disabilities, and no one wanted to hire him because he had to have a service treatment dog. They ended up taking him on and hired the dog and paid him I think it was a 40-pound bag of dog food a month or a week as their salary.
Lowe's did this?
I think it was Lowe's or Home Depot. I can't remember which one.
I love it.
I have to look it up.
I have my choice of either, so I'm going to be going to one of these more often now.
So one of them,
that's awesome.
They hired the dog too, and he wore a vest with the Lowe's vest and everything.
I love that.
Awesome. So that way he could, again, these veterans, yes, they're 100% rated due to their service connected. Doesn't mean that they're not unemployable or don't want to work or be a productive member. Right, be a productive member of society.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So he was looking for jobs and he was getting turned down because of that. But it didn't stop him from continuing pushing through and persevering and finding employment.
Good for that home improvement chain, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I spend a lot of money at Home Depot. So
yeah.
I hope it's them.
Hey,
I think it's Lowe's. We'll have to look it up.
We got 10% off.
We'll have to look it up. Let me look it up. Yeah, for sure.
I have to change my my chain of home goods.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome.
It was Lowe's in Albine, Texas.
Oh, I guess
Love
I'm
it.
changing.
Love it.
Lowe's Home Improvement, yes. And hired Air Force veteran Clay Luthi and his service dog Charlotte after he struggled to find employers willing to accommodate her presence. And the story went viral in 2016. Yep.
All right, Lowe's, you get my business.
Yeah.
Well, more of my business.
Yes.
I like how we hit a lot of these without
one thing about Home Depot also,
I'm a Lowe's guy. Fuck
is
Home
that
Depot.
they cap.
Not sponsored by Lowe's.
Huh?
Did you know that?
I know there's
As a
certain
veteran,
things wouldn't I couldn't get it for, I think it was lumber. I couldn't get it for lumber or something.
As a veteran discount, they cap you off, so they can only give you $600 worth of discounts, while Lowe's doesn't.
I think Lowe's is 2,000 actually.
No, Lowe's doesn't have a limit.
Really?
It's fine. I'll just come in and buy that amount of stuff each time, and then I'll just come back the next day and get. No, Lowe's has my business.
Lowe's has my business too.
Or Menards, if you're from the Michigan area, Menards is pretty good as well.
Sounds good.
It's just it's hard in Naples, but I'm gonna have to go to Lowe's more often.
Yeah, I'm a big Lowe's fan.
That
was kind of a tough one because it's like we kind of. No, you can't lose your job, but you can.
Yeah, I think the overwhelming, like you guys both stated a couple times, the overwhelming majority has nothing to worry about. I think that's pretty clear.
So, if you want clarity on if you are going to lose your job or not, just give us a call. We'll book you up with a coach. If not, give us some topics. Let us know what you want us to talk about. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.
The War Room by Veterans Educating Veterans.